They didn't shout it. They didn't need to. It was written quietly in a file, spoken politely in meetings, implied in every disappointed look. A guidance counselor slid a paper across the desk and said, "This might be more realistic for you," pointing to a brochure about manual labor programs. No one said the word failure out loud, but everyone thought it. By the time he dropped out, his name had already become a warning. Teachers used him as an example of wasted potential. Classmates used him as proof that talent didn't matter without discipline. Even his parents, who loved him deeply, had stopped arguing on his behalf. Love had turned into quiet worry, and worry into resignation. He wasn't stupid. That was the cruelest part. He could take apart a broken radio and rebuild it without instructions. He could understand complex ideas if someone explained why they mattered. But the school system didn't reward curiosity without compliance. It rewarded attendance, homework, obedience, memorization. He failed classes not because he couldn't learn, but because he couldn't sit still long enough to pretend he was learning. At 16, he had already repeated a grade. At 17, after one more suspension, the principal finally said the sentence that ended everything. "Maybe school just isn't for you." That was it. No dramatic walkout, no inspiring speech, just a quiet exit through the same doors he had entered as a hopeful child years earlier. The day he dropped out, he walked home instead of taking the bus. It was winter. His hands were cold, but his head was loud. Thoughts collided inside him. Fear, anger, shame, and a strange sense of relief. At least it was over, or so he thought. The invisible weight of being the dropout. In America, dropping out of school doesn't just change your education status. It changes how the world looks at you. Job applications asked for diplomas he didn't have. Interviewers smiled politely until they reached the education section. Then the smiles tightened. Friends moved on, to college, to dorm rooms, to futures that sounded impressive at family dinners. He moved on too, just in a different direction. At 18, he worked his first full-time job washing dishes at a local diner. Minimum wage, night shifts, grease-stained clothes. The kitchen was hot, loud, and unforgiving. Plates never stopped coming. Mistakes were shouted, not corrected gently. But there was something honest about it. If you worked hard, the work was visible. If you didn't, everyone knew. He learned quickly, not because he loved the job, but because he hated feeling replaceable. Still, effort didn't translate into advancement. Weeks turned into months, months into years. By 21, he had worked more than most of his college-bound peers, but had nothing to show for it. No degree, no savings, no clear direction, just exhaustion. Watching others pass you by. Social media made it worse. He watched former classmates post graduation photos, new apartments, first jobs with titles that sounded important. They talked about internships, networking events, finding themselves. He was finding himself too, just in break rooms, on factory floors, behind cash registers. Every time someone asked, "So, what do you do?" he answered with a job title that changed often, but never sounded impressive. Eventually, he stopped answering honestly. He said, "I'm figuring things out." But inside, a different sentence repeated itself. Maybe they were right. The first big mistake. At 23, desperate to escape low-wage work, he made a decision that felt bold at the time and reckless in hindsight. He took out loans he didn't fully understand. A for-profit training program promised fast skills, high-paying jobs, and success stories that looked convincing enough. The sales representative spoke with confidence, used words like guaranteed and in demand. He wanted to believe. For the first time since dropping out, he felt hopeful. Maybe this was his second chance. It wasn't. The program was shallow, the support non-existent, The job placement promises quietly disappeared once tuition was paid. Within a year, he was back where he started, except now he had debt, real debt. Bills arrived every month, demanding money he didn't have for education that hadn't changed his life. That's when panic set in, when hope turns into survival mode. At 25, he worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3.
Morning shifts in a warehouse, evenings delivering food, weekends doing whatever paid cash. Sleep became optional. Health became negotiable. He wasn't chasing dreams anymore. He was chasing rent. The American dream, as he understood it now, wasn't about success. It was about survival. One night, after a 14-hour day, he sat in his car outside a small apartment he could barely afford. He didn't turn off the engine. He just stared at the steering wheel. He wasn't crying. He was numb. That scared him more. The lowest point no one sees online. By 27, something unthinkable happened. He lost his apartment, not because of one big mistake, but because of many small ones piling up. A missed payment here, a reduced shift there, an unexpected expense. He told people he was between places. The truth was harsher. For several months, he slept in his car. He learned which parking lots were safest, which gas stations didn't mind, which gyms stayed open late enough for showers. During the day, no one could tell. He still showed up to work, still smiled, still said, "I'm good." At night, alone in the driver's seat, reality pressed down hard. This was the moment most people don't come back from. Statistics say that once you fall this far, the climb becomes nearly impossible. Education gaps, financial instability, mental strain, they compound. He didn't know the statistics. He just knew something had to change. The question that changed everything. One night, scrolling through his phone to distract himself from the cold, he came across a video. It wasn't flashy. No luxury cars, no shouting motivation. Just a man talking calmly into a camera, saying one sentence: "No one is coming to save you." But that's not bad news. It means the outcome is still yours. He watched it again, then again. For the first time in years, something clicked. Not excitement, not inspiration, but clarity. He realized something uncomfortable. He had spent years trying to escape failure instead of understanding it. School hadn't failed him. The system hadn't betrayed him. Even the bad program wasn't the core problem. The real issue was simpler and harder to accept. He had never taken full responsibility for his learning. That night, sitting in a parked car with fogged-up windows, he made a decision so small it wouldn't impress anyone. He decided to learn one skill, just one. No certificates, no shortcuts, no promises of quick money. Only something valuable enough that people would pay for it. Starting with nothing but time. He didn't have money to invest. He didn't have mentors. He didn't have confidence. What he had was time between shifts and a phone with internet access. He started researching obsessively. Not how to get rich, but what skills are actually paid for? Which ones don't require formal degrees? Which ones reward results, not credentials? Patterns emerged. Sales, technology, marketing, operations. He noticed something important. In almost every success story, school credentials mattered less than measurable outcomes. That idea stuck. He chose a skill that scared him because it involved rejection and accountability. Sales. Not the glamorous version, the uncomfortable, performance-based kind. He found free resources, forums, videos, blogs. He studied scripts, psychology, negotiation, human behavior. Every night after work, he practiced out loud in his car. He failed constantly. He sounded awkward, fake, nervous. But something was different this time.
Failure didn't feel like confirmation of worthlessness. It felt like data. And for the first time since he dropped out of school, he wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was trying to improve. He didn't know it yet, but this decision, made quietly, anonymously in a parked car, was the moment everything began to shift. Not overnight, not dramatically, slowly, relentlessly, in ways that wouldn't make sense until years later. This was not the story of a miracle. This was the beginning of a process, and processes, unlike luck, can scale. The first sales job wasn't glamorous. It was cold calls from a cubicle in a nondescript office. The fluorescent lights flickered, the chairs were uncomfortable, and the computer froze at least twice an hour. He was assigned to sell commercial cleaning contracts. Dusty buildings, empty offices, clients who didn't want to talk to him. The first week, he made 200 calls. He got 3 appointments. He sold nothing.
He went home exhausted, hungry, and more uncertain than ever. But something had shifted. Now, failure wasn't shameful. It was data. He analyzed every call. What worked? What didn't? Which words annoyed the client? Which phrases sparked curiosity? He wrote scripts. He rewrote scripts. He recorded himself practicing in his car. Within a month, he made his first sale, a $300 contract. It wasn't much, but it was proof. Proof that he could actually do something other than survive. Brutal rejection. By month 3, the job became brutal. One client screamed at him over the phone for 20 minutes. Another laughed when he tried to offer his services. Another said they'd think about it, then ghosted him completely. At home, he sometimes cried quietly in the shower, wondering if he had made a mistake. But every rejection taught him something. Tone matters. Timing matters. Confidence matters more than knowledge. He documented every failure, every success, and slowly built a playbook of persuasion. The mistake that almost broke him again. At 6 months, he landed a mid-sized client, his biggest yet. Excited, he overpromised.
He told them he could deliver faster than possible. He wanted the money, the recognition, the proof that he belonged. The client called a week later, furious. Deadlines were missed. Mistakes happened. He felt the old shame creeping back. All the progress felt like it was unraveling. He considered quitting. He considered giving up. But then he realized something crucial. Mistakes aren't the end. They're lessons disguised as crisis. He owned up, apologized, fixed the problems, learned to underpromise and overdeliver. This moment, humbling, painful, terrifying, taught him the value of integrity in business. It wasn't about tricking people to buy. It was about earning trust. The unexpected opportunity. Around month 9, something unexpected happened. A local business owner overheard him practicing a pitch in a coffee shop. The man approached him, curious. Instead of laughing, he asked questions. By the end of the conversation, he offered him a consulting opportunity, help his company streamline client acquisition. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't a $1 million deal, but it was a real opportunity to apply skills, earn more money, and build credibility. This moment reinforced one lesson that would follow him for life. Opportunities often appear when no one is watching and you are quietly doing the work. Scaling knowledge into action. By the second year, he had mastered small sales, but he knew that the real wealth wasn't in a single job. He studied
Marketing funnels, social media growth, basic finance, negotiation psychology, productivity systems. He applied these lessons to small freelance projects, helping local businesses acquire clients. Some projects failed, some projects succeeded. Each success meant small cash flow, but more importantly, a growing portfolio of proof. By age 28, he was making more than he ever imagined possible when he washed dishes. And yet, he wasn't satisfied. He wanted freedom, not just survival. The moment that changed everything. One day, while analyzing his progress, he realized a pattern. Every successful entrepreneur he admired had one thing in common. They solved problems no one else wanted to solve. They created value others didn't see. He thought back to his own life. School had rejected him. Society had doubted him. The system had failed him. He understood a critical insight. If he could create a system that solved these problems, simplifying business growth for small companies, he could build something much bigger than just himself. He drafted a business plan in a notebook. No investors, no fancy software, just ideas, processes, and hours of planning in the library at night when no one would interrupt him. This was the blueprint for what would later become his first $1 million company. At 29, he finally took the leap. He rented a tiny office space above a laundromat. No furniture, no clients yet, just a desk, a laptop, and a whiteboard full of scribbles. He had no investors, no team, no safety net.
What he had was experience, painful, real-world experience, and a deep understanding of one thing. Small businesses struggled to get clients. He called his venture Growth Solutions. Simple, descriptive, nothing flashy. The first clients. The first few clients were neighbors, friends of friends, anyone desperate enough to take a chance. He charged small fees, just enough to cover rent and minimal expenses. The work was grueling. He built websites late into the night, wrote marketing emails at 3 a.m., hand-delivered proposals to businesses that barely acknowledged him. Many clients canceled contracts, many complained, some refused to pay, but he persisted. He learned to document results, increase in leads, improved sales, client retention. By the end of the first 6 months, he had about 10 paying clients, barely breaking even. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. Scaling up. He realized a critical insight. He couldn't work harder, he had to work smarter. He created templates for proposals and campaigns. He developed a system to track client results efficiently. He automated repetitive tasks with inexpensive software. The small changes compounded. Clients stayed longer, referrals started coming in. By month 12, he had 30 clients and a small team of 3 contractors. He was finally earning more than he ever imagined washing dishes or delivering food. The first major setback. Just as things started looking up, disaster struck. One of his largest clients accused him of overcharging. A miscommunication turned into a legal threat. He panicked.
For the first time since dropping out of school, he felt powerless. He could have walked away. He could have accepted defeat. Instead, he faced it head-on. He learned contract law basics, negotiated with the client, and delivered extra results to rebuild trust. The ordeal cost him sleepless nights and nearly all his savings, but he survived. And he learned a lesson no school could have taught: resilience trumps luck. By age 30, Growth Solutions generated $250,000 in revenue. He wasn't a billionaire yet. It wasn't luxurious, but it was proof. Proof that a school dropout, homeless, broke, doubted by everyone, could build something valuable from scratch. The real reward wasn't money, it was control over his life. He could choose which clients to take, which projects to prioritize, which mornings to sleep in. Freedom, not fame. Security, not validation. Lessons learned. Start small, focus on results. Document everything. Results speak louder than promises. Failure isn't shameful, stagnation is. Legal and financial literacy is survival skill number 1 for entrepreneurs. Persistence compounds faster than talent alone. These principles carried him to the next stage, expanding his services beyond local businesses into a national client base, the turning point toward millions. At 31, he signed a contract with a regional franchise, a chain of 50 small stores. The deal was worth $1.2 million over 3 years. It wasn't a gamble anymore, it was leverage. The systems he built for 10 clients now scaled to 50. Contractors became employees. Revenue tripled then quadrupled without him increasing work hours proportionally. He was finally seeing the compounding effect of consistent skill building, patience, and resilience. By 32, he crossed the $1 million revenue mark. He wasn't flashy on social media. He wasn't chasing hype.
He didn't quit his principles to achieve it. It was earned, slowly, painfully, undeniably. By the time he turned 33, he had hit a milestone few in his situation ever imagined: $1 million in revenue. Yet, he didn't stop. He couldn't, because he realized something critical. One company, no matter how successful, was fragile. Clients could leave, markets could change, competitors could appear. The lesson came early. Financial security wasn't about reaching a number. It was about creating multiple streams of income and building systems that could survive without him. Expanding beyond the first company. He started small, consulting other businesses on client acquisition systems, offering online courses teaching the exact frameworks he used, investing in small startups where he could provide operational guidance in exchange for equity. Each venture carried risk. Many people warned him, "You're spreading yourself too thin. Why not just enjoy your first success?" But he had lived long enough to understand comfort was dangerous. Complacency leads to stagnation, the personal challenges. During this period, life tested him in ways that no business textbook could prepare him for. A health scare that reminded him of the importance of self-care. Family tensions. Some relatives never believed he could succeed. Relationships strained under the weight of his focus and long hours. He realized success was not just financial. It was about balancing risk, health, and meaningful relationships while building something bigger than himself. Scaling the first company nationwide. The first company grew from a small client base to a nationwide presence. He hired a full-time team of 25.
Established branch offices in 3 other states. Automated repetitive processes so that his attention could focus on strategy and innovation. Revenue doubled, then tripled again. Every decision was calculated, but not free from fear. Launching a new office required capital he didn't have in hand. Every hire was a gamble. Could this person handle responsibility? But he leaned on systems, data, and disciplined decision-making, diversifying into new ventures. With revenue flowing, he turned to investments in entrepreneurship, tech startups, provided mentorship and operational consulting for equity, online education platforms, launched courses for small business owners nationwide, real estate, bought undervalued properties, renovated, and sold them for profit. By 35, he wasn't just running one company, he was running a network of revenue-generating ventures. The financial number was impressive, yes, multi-million-dollar valuation. But the true victory was deeper. He could now create jobs for others. He could invest in his community. He finally had control over his life trajectory. Lessons for anyone watching. Skill versus credentials. You don't need a degree to solve real problems that people will pay for. Failure is data. Every setback teaches a principle. Ignore it at your peril. Systems versus sweat. Work smart. Automate where possible. Leverage knowledge. Diversify risk. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Build multiple avenues for growth. Persistence compounds. Success is rarely overnight. It is built consistently over years. Reflection. Looking back, he understood the irony. School had expelled him, convinced he would fail. Life nearly broke him in a car, a kitchen, and low-wage jobs. Every rejection, every failed course, every angry client was a stepping stone. He didn't become a millionaire because life was kind. He became one because he persisted when no one was watching. He learned from every failure, and he built value where others saw none. By 35, he was not just a millionaire. He was a self-made architect of his destiny. Proof that failure is not the end, but a beginning. By 36, he had more than wealth. He had influence. Not the flashy celebrity kind, not the Instagram famous type. Real influence, the kind that changed how people thought, how small businesses operated, how lives could be rebuilt. Building a legacy. He realized that true success wasn't measured by bank accounts. It was measured by impact on others, sustainability of systems, and ability to teach what you've learned. He began mentoring aspiring entrepreneurs, especially those who had been written off by society, school dropouts, underprivileged youth, immigrants struggling to find footing.
Because they taught him how to survive, how to learn outside the system, how to persevere, how to innovate. School didn't fail him. Life almost did, but he refused to fail himself. The final motivational message. For anyone watching, listening, or reading this story, you don't need permission. You don't need a degree. You don't need a perfect plan. What you need is persistence, courage, and the willingness to keep building when no one believes in you. Start small, fail fast, learn relentlessly. And one day, years from now, you will look back and realize the world underestimated you, and you proved it right. Epilogue. He never forgot the pain of being written off. He never forgot the nights in a car, the cold dinners, the humiliation of rejection. But he also never forgot that every setback contained a seed of opportunity. And that seed, nurtured by effort, resilience, and relentless learning, had grown into a life that no school, no failure, and no naysayer could take away. Because they taught him how to survive, how to learn outside the system, how to persevere, how to innovate. School didn't fail him. Life almost did, but he refused to fail himself. The final motivational message. For anyone watching, listening, or reading this story, you don't need permission. You don't need a degree. You don't need a perfect plan. What you need is persistence, courage, and the willingness to keep building when no one believes in you. Start small, fail fast, learn relentlessly. And one day, years from now, you will look back and realize the world underestimated you, and you proved it right. Epilogue. He never forgot the pain of being written off. He never forgot the nights in a car, the cold dinners, the humiliation of rejection. But he also never forgot that every setback contained a seed of opportunity, and that seed, nurtured by effort, resilience, and relentless learning, had grown into a life that no school, no failure, and no naysayer could take away.